What is cocaine like? What's up, guys? My name's Eric, and I wanted to share with you my unbiased opinion of what cocaine was like and what I thought of cocaine as a recovering cocaine and alcoholic addict. Because I don't think the DARE approach works. I don't think this whole, let's scare people out of doing substances. People are going to do whatever substances they want to do. I think the best that you can do is to educate people so that they're aware. And sometimes through true education, you actually detour people because they're like, wait a minute, that doesn't sound like what I thought it was. And it maybe opens and expands their mind. And so I want to share with you what it was really like with cocaine with me, because I thought it was a harmless drug. You know, it was a weekend drug, it was a party drug. Rich people did this. It's an expensive drug, so rich people did it. Hollywood actors did it. Rock stars did it. Successful salespeople and stuff did it. So why would anyone do it? Why would anyone do this if it was really that bad? Because everybody seems to be doing it and it's okay. And that was the stigma that I bought into. If you're new to the channel, hit the like and subscribe button. So I really thought that this was like a safe drug. Wasn't scared of it at all. Like I was scared of heroin because my thing growing up was like you needed a needle and you had to IV heroin, and needles freaked me out. Crystal meth freaked me out. It was like a poor person, just trailer, teeth missing, stealing TV drug. Like it was just a dirty drug to me is the only way I can really explain it. That it was never like one of these things that, hey, I want to try this. Crack cocaine wasn't anything that I ever really wanted to try. I mean, I watched, you're watching these drug busts and these people just arrested and stuff for crack dealers and guns and gang violence and all this stuff. There's like a lot of violence tied to it. Where with cocaine, everything tied to it was rock stars, party, weekend party, rich, extravagant yachts, all of this. And it was alluring. It draws you in. Scarface and the villains of the movies who are just cool. That's a perception that like cocaine had for me. And it didn't scare me at all. And that I think was the scariest part about it, of actually why I started using it, was I wasn't fearful. When I had done crystal meth at times and different substances, they would freak me out. I'd get really upset about them. But when it came to cocaine, there was no fear at all with cocaine because I thought that it was harmless, which turns out the more that you actually learn about this, that's not the case at all. I thought this is a safe drug. I'm going to do it. And the first time I did it, didn't do a whole lot for me. I didn't get hooked. I did it a few times in high school. Didn't do much for me. But man, when I was at a low point in my life at 23, I did a line, and that line hit different. I loved it. It was the most amazing feeling in the world. And it's amazing how many people I've also talked to have felt this way. I know people who have used, cocaine in their early 20s, used it again in their 40s, and all of a sudden became an addict in their 40s. Just because you use it once doesn't mean you're going to necessarily be hooked. But because of where I was, like life-wise, what I was going through a divorce, really depressed. For 15 minutes, cocaine gave me everything. It gave me big mood energy. It gave me confidence. It took away my depression. It took away my anxiety. It made me happy. It made me laugh. It made me forget. And I think that was the scariest part about it, is it made me forget for 15 minutes. I forgot everything I was going through. I was going through a lot, like possibly losing my house. I ended up losing my house, losing my marriage, like losing everything. Not sure what the future holds, lots of fear, just abandonment trauma all over the place. For 15 minutes, it all went quiet. For 15 minutes, it all was good. For 15 minutes, it was okay. I had drank a lot, and all of a sudden I felt like I could handle the alcohol a little bit better. I all of a sudden could, focus on, the conversations at this bar I was having. I felt good at this bar. I felt like my chest kind of inflated out, and I wasn't afraid to talk to people all of a sudden. I kind of broke out of the shell in this depression. And that's the scariest side effect of cocaine. Like for me, that 15 minutes was just freaking amazing. And I wasn't hooked right away. I mean, this definitely hooked differently. Man, it felt great. And then all of a sudden it kind of went away, and I was like, man, like I want that feeling back. So, do a little bit more. And at this time, I didn't realize that you build a tolerance to cocaine. No one ever told me that. No one ever made me realize and shared that there is a dopamine tolerance that you can build. And that is real, man. And that is how you get wrapped into this addiction so easily. Next thing you know, that night, maybe a half a gram really, really got me going good and made me feel great, made me feel unstoppable. I remember thinking I could budget it too. Like I was only going to do it on certain weekends. I was only going to party every now and then. And it was like almost like a comfort blanket knowing I had it, because if I did it, it would make me happy. But I'm not going to do it all the time. And that was the scariest thing about when it came to cocaine was I didn't realize how this drug went. I didn't go obsessive all of a sudden. So I didn't think I had any worries of being addicted to it because it wasn't like, oh my God, I got a shot of heroin in me all of a sudden and now I have to do more and more and more. It didn't work that way at all with me. So I thought I was safe. And that wasn't the case at all. It slowly grew and it started to the point where the same amount of cocaine wouldn't give me the same effect all of a sudden. You think that you can kind of control this drug, and when you're snorting it, it's a whole process that I got addicted to. It was the rolling it up gave me a lot of excitement, for the dollar bills to crushing it out on like CD cases. I usually did it in the very beginning in my car mostly. It was the feeling of the drip in my mouth, the bitterness of the smell of it, to the numbness that would hit into my sinuses and my gums, to the feeling my nose start to clog, to the snorting it back through and kind of clearing out your sinuses and tasting that like kerosene gasoline in the back of your throat. And it was everything that I started to really like about this drug, and I didn't realize how it was slowly creeping me into addiction. I thought that this was something I could control. I thought that I was able to have control over it, and I realized and learned eventually that how I was not able to control this substance. This substance controlled me. I was not able to do it in moderation. I was only able to do it in mass quantities. To the point that how the dopamine tolerance worked is to the point where my depression started getting more and more if I wasn't using it. So in order to be happy, I had to continually use. And it didn't make any sense, because now all of a sudden, if I wasn't using it, I was thinking about it. How can I get some more? It was something that slowly engulfed itself into my life, where this wasn't a party anymore. This wasn't a weekend deal anymore. This wasn't a once a month, once every 6 month, deal to do a couple lines. That it slowly engulfed into it's constantly on my mind deal of, when can I get it again? I need to get it again. And now all of a sudden, slowly, without it, I wasn't happy. And I started believing the only way I could actually be happy was with using cocaine. And that's how it actually roped me into that addiction side to it. And that wasn't how it was supposed to be. Nobody told me that this is how this drug was. You don't see cocaine addicts underneath the bridge, overpasses, homeless with needles out of their arm. That's not how you see cocaine addicts. But I never realized that cocaine addicts, at a certain point, when you can't afford it anymore, you're going to different drugs such as crystal meth, which is cheaper. You're going to crack cocaine, which hits a lot harder. You're stealing for this. You're going down that road for it, essentially. But I never saw that. I never saw that down the road. For me, I never hit that portion of it. I hit a very just addictive substance portion of it, a obsession portion of it. And that was what the reality of my addiction was. No one told me how it kind of just crept in and just hugged you and then never let you go, is the easiest way I can explain my experience with cocaine and even the addiction side of it. To the point that, I am doing 1 to 2 8-balls of coke a day. That's 3.5 grams, 7 grams a day. Have a lot of permanent nose damage. My withdrawals were horrible. And that was the other part of it that I guess it never registered with me and made sense, that when I was getting sober, you hear people getting sober from heroin, you hear people getting sober from a lot of this stuff and the withdrawals that they're going through. You never hear of, I never heard of cocaine withdrawals. I never heard of people sharing the negative sides of cocaine withdrawals. And so even when I would go to NA, people would look at me different, like, oh, well, I was a opiate addict, and like they deserved like a medal, but for me being a cocaine addict, I didn't deserve anything. And I didn't realize that the withdrawals of it are immense when it comes to mental withdrawals. Isn't much physical withdrawals with cocaine. So when it comes to actually using cocaine, you're not going to get the restless legs. You're not going to get the pain and stuff. You might get a little bit of stuff, some fatigue, especially if you're just recently doing it because you're exhausted. But it's the mental side of it, because your brain has been now trained to produce dopamine off of massive stimulants. So normal things in life aren't producing dopamine anymore. The joys in life, like a good night's sleep and working out, isn't producing happiness anymore. Seeing your girlfriend or whatever isn't producing happiness anymore. And that was something I really, really struggled with for a very long time, up until it took me about almost 2 years of getting sober to finally have that mental side go away. And I didn't realize that was what PAWS, post-acute withdrawal syndrome, is. It was horrid. It was a lot of depression, and it just wouldn't go away, man. It was a pit of despair. I couldn't get happy. Little things wouldn't get me happiness. My happiness was very, very short-lived. And it was a struggle to just try and feel normal. But my brain had been programmed and so used to massive dopamine hits through a substance that it took it a long time to learn how to do it again itself. I had to realize too, most people don't get that a majority of the damage that it's going to do is all permanent damage. When it comes to like the damage to your nose, your esophagus, to your teeth, to your stomach, so there is a lot of permanent damage that it can do. It can do damage to your lungs. I got lucky because when I was doing this, fentanyl wasn't around. Fentanyl's cut into cocaine now. You know, I know I did cocaine that was cut with meth. I know I did cocaine that was cut with a lot of other substances. I would get cocaine that, no bag of cocaine that I got was ever the same. You know, sometimes it was a different tint of white. Sometimes it was more white than others. Sometimes it was more powder than others. Sometimes it was more crustier than others. And pretty much all cocaine out there is cut. It's cut with a lot of stuff for weight, especially when I used. There's laxatives in it, talcum powder in it, non-scented laundry detergent in it. There's a lot of things that people put in it for creatine, meat tenderizers and stuff like that for the weight. Back in my day, I mean, people would put in caffeine, they put in Adderall or Ritalin, they'll put in crystal meth, they'll put in ketamine, different things to try and give it a different feeling. Try and make it potent a little bit more because it's been cut so much. But now you have fentanyl that's mixed into it, which most stimulant addicts don't have a opiate tolerance at all. So your odds of ODing are even greater. This is all stuff I kind of wish I would have known, man. Would it have stopped me from using it? Honestly, I don't know. Peer pressure is worse than what they ever say it is. I don't think people give peer pressure enough credit. You know, you think of peer pressure of like, you know, oh, Billy out on the playground, like, hey, you want to do this with us? No, it doesn't, like, that's not what peer pressure is. Peer pressure is like when everyone's doing it and you want to fit in. Even when your friends are like, hey, you don't have to do this, bro. Like, but you want to be like one of the cool kids, and like you feel like if you don't do it, you're not going to fit in with them. And you know, I think that can lead to a lot of people to at least trying some of these substances that they never would have tried in the first place or wanted to try in the first place, or depending on where they're at, you know, mental wise, trying things. And so that's why I share. I mean, I share because I'm not an expert. I just share my living testimony on it. If you haven't hit the like and follow button, hit the like and follow button, comment down below, because the more that we share experiences, the more that it helps, I think, people who are going through it. Like, there's no right or wrong way of getting sober. The way that I got sober, probably very few people are going to get sober that way. We all get sober different ways. I think that's the thing that people miss, is that you think that you have to do certain things to get sober. And sometimes it's inpatient treatment, outpatient treatment, therapy, therapist, medication. Sometimes it's you know, the right doctor. Sometimes it's going to the hospital. Sometimes it's NA and AA. Sometimes it's all of it. Like, find what works for you, because there's no right or wrong way to get sober. And I think that we lose track of that sometimes, and we forget that sometimes. A lot of times we relapse a lot because we feel that the way that we're doing it, we're failing, and then it almost enables us to not get sober in our own way because, well, it just doesn't work for me. I'm not that person. So share your experiences down below. I mean, the more that we share, the more that we talk about it, I think the more that it helps people out there understand. I think the more that it helps people make sense of what addiction really is and how dangerous it is, especially when it comes to this substance, because it does have such a party safe stigma still to it, unfortunately. And in my eyes, it is one of the most dangerous drugs there is.